The room went silent when she entered. It was a quiet morning on set, the kind where everyone walked softly, spoke in whispers, and avoided eye contact. The director had called for a full cast and crew meeting, something that rarely happened unless the project was on the edge of falling apart. Everyone sat in their usual places, but something felt different. Tension lingered in the air, like a string pulled too tight. Then the door creaked open. Ana de Armas stepped in slowly, her eyes downcast, her hands gripping the sides of her coat, like she was trying to hold herself together. No one said a word. Even the humming of the lights seemed to stop. She had been gone for 2 weeks, ever since the rumor spread that she had been quietly replaced. No warning, no explanation, just a new actress showing up to read lines. People whispered that Ana had been too emotional, that she had questioned a few things during rehearsal and made some people uncomfortable. But what they didn't know was that Ana hadn't spoken up for herself. She had spoken up for a background actor who had been mocked on set. Ana had stepped in calmly, respectfully, and asked the director to show a little more patience. That one moment, that one act of kindness, had cost her everything. Or so she thought. As she walked to the back of the room, looking for a seat, even the assistants averted their eyes. One chair had a coat on it, another had a script. A third had a coffee cup. She kept walking. Keanu Reeves watched her quietly from across the room. He hadn't spoken much during the whole project. Not because he didn't care, but because he observed more than he reacted. He had seen what happened. The day Ana was pushed out, he had seen the silence that followed. No one offered her a seat. No one said hello. She finally stood in a corner near the window, pretending to look outside. The director cleared his throat and began to speak. "We've had a few bumps, I know. But today's a new day. We've got a revised script, and we're going to move forward as a team." Some people nodded. Few clapped. The mood began to shift toward a false sense of normalcy. But then, something happened that no one expected. Keanu stood up. He didn't say anything. He didn't look at the director. He simply walked to the front of the room, past the producers, past the new lead actress, and picked up a single copy of the revised script from the table. Then, without a word, he turned and walked slowly toward Ana. Every eye followed him. Some people looked confused. Others whispered, but Keanu's expression didn't change. Calm, focused. Quiet strength. He walked past everyone actors. Producer's assistants Anne placed the script gently in Ana's hands. She looked up at him, her lips trembling slightly. He leaned down and said just loud enough for the room to hear, "They wrote her out. I'm writing her back in." "Guess," echoed across the space. The director's mouth opened, but no words came out. Someone dropped a pen. Keanu didn't wait for permission. He turned to the crew and said, "This story doesn't work without her, and if she's not in it, I'm not in it either." The room froze. Ana's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She stood up straight, held the script with both hands, and looked toward the very people who had once made her feel small. It was the first time she had been seen in days. Truly seen, and all it took was one man's silent walk across the room. But this wasn't just about Keanu or Ana. This was about everyone who had ever been cast aside for doing the right thing. It was about the quiet power of standing up, not with anger, but with grace. The producers rushed into a side room, whispering in panic. The director rubbed his forehead, unsure how to respond, but Keanu didn't need their approval. He walked back to his chair, sat down, and opened his original script like nothing had happened. The room stayed quiet for a long moment, and then, slowly, one by one, people began to clap. Not loud, just soft, respectful claps. Not for drama, not for performance, but for truth. And for the first time in weeks, Ana smiled. Just a little, but enough to change everything. Whispers turned into waves after. The quiet clapping faded. The meeting ended in confusion. No one really knew what to do. The director stood frozen for a while, mumbling something about needing a quick break, then hurried out the side door. The producers followed. The assistant director picked up a clipboard but didn't say a word. The new lead actress, the one who had quietly replaced Ana, stood awkwardly near the makeup station. flipping through a script she hadn't even finished. Reading, meanwhile, Lena was still holding the one Keanu had handed her. She hadn't moved, not because she was afraid, but because something inside her had shifted. She didn't feel invisible anymore. She felt remembered. Keanu glanced at her with a soft nod, then got up and walked toward the wardrobe department. He acted like nothing happened, like he hadn't just shaken the entire production team with one bold act. But the truth was, Keanu knew exactly what he was doing. Keanu believed in silence, but not in staying silent when someone was being hurt. That was his rule, his quiet way of living. Behind the scenes, crew members whispered in small groups. They wondered if Keanu had spoken. To the studio, some thought he had seen something they hadn't. Others, the ones who had always felt a little powerless, felt something stir inside them. Anna sat near the lighting rig, quietly reading the script he gave her. The words felt different now. Because they were new, but because they were hers again. Someone had tried to erase her, but someone else had handed her the pen. An hour later, the director returned. His voice was shaky, like a man who knew the room had already made a decision without him. "We're going to take a short break from filming," he said. Just a few days. So we sort through, some creative adjustments." Everyone knew what that meant. They were rethinking everything. The new lead actress left without saying a word. Her contract had been signed, but it meant nothing now, because the face of the film, Keanu Reeves, had spoken. And when someone like Keanu speaks not in anger, but with truth, even the strongest contracts start to shake. Anna quietly stepped outside the studio for some air. The sun was lower now. Golden lights spilled across the parking lot. It felt warm, real. A quiet kind of hope. Keanu followed, keeping a respectful distance. He didn't want to pressure her. He just wanted to walk the same path. Quietly, Anna turned around and gave him a soft smile. "Why did you do that?" she asked. He paused, looking up at the sky, then down at his feet. "Because silence makes cowards out of good people," he said. "And you were never wrong, Anna. They just didn't like how right you were." She blinked, not sure how to respond. "I saw you," he added. "The day you stood up for that extra. I saw how careful you were, how respectful, and how quickly they turned on you." Anna looked away, biting her lip. "You deserved better," Keanu said gently, "so I did what I could." They stood in silence for a moment, not needing more words. Inside the studio, the conversation had shifted. People were no longer whispering, they were talking. Makeup artists, light operators, even grips who never got involved were speaking up. They remembered how Anna had always thanked them, how she knew their names, how she stayed late and helped clean up props without being asked to her. Kindness had built quiet loyalty, but no one had dared defend her. Until Keanu and our people were remembering by the next morning, quiet movement had begun. Anonymous crew members sent messages to the studio head. "She was the only one who treated us like equals. If she goes, we go." Keanu was right. The director was called in for a meeting. Anna received a simple message from the production assistant. It said, "You're back in. No fanfare, no apology." Just for words that felt like a door being opened again. But Anna didn't run back in. Right away, she called Keanu. "Can I ask you something?" she said on the phone. "Anything?" "What if I'm not ready to go back? Just yet?" Keanu didn't hesitate. "Then we wait, or we walk." Anna smiled. "I'll smile." Not because she wanted anyone to walk out, but because someone finally cared enough to give her that choice. And that was power. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that waits beside you in silence. As the sun set that day, a new script began to take shape. One not written by the studio, but written by kindness, and remembered by those who refused to stay quiet. The studio's quiet warning, 3 days passed. The set remained quiet, like a town right after a storm. No filming, no rehearsals, just quiet movement behind closed doors. People pretended to clean equipment, shift light stands, check costumes, but everyone knew what they were really doing. They were waiting. Anna hadn't returned yet. Not fully. She came by once in the afternoon to collect her jacket. She walked through the lot quietly, eyes low but posture straight. Some crew nodded at her, others gave her gentle smiles. One woman from the makeup team simply whispered, "Thank you," as she passed Keanu, on the other hand, had been showing up every day. Not to act, but to be present. He sat near the soundstage in a folding chair, drinking black coffee and flipping through old pages of the original script. He talked to no one unless spoken to. But everyone knew why he was there. He wasn't protecting Anna, he was reminding the room that she was worth protecting. Then came the email. The subject line was short. Final decision. Anna read it alone in her small apartment. It came from a studio executive, someone who had never met her in person, but had the power to decide everything. The message was cold. After reviewing all details, we've decided to proceed with our current cast. Thank you for your contribution. Your professionalism will be remembered. Anna stared at it for a long time, not because she didn't expect it, but because it still hurt. How quickly they forget, how easily they erase. She didn't cry, not this time. Instead, she picked up her phone and texted Keanu. They made their choice. Keanu responded with just one word. So did I. Within an hour, he made a call to his agent. I'm stepping away from the project. The agent panicked. Keanu, this is a major film. Global release. You're under contract. Then buy me out, Keanu said calmly. I'll pay the difference if I have to. The news hit the studio like a crack of thunder. An actor like Keanu didn't walk away from projects, not unless something deeply personal was involved. The producers scrambled. Some tried to call him. Others reached out through back channels. One even offered him a private meeting, away from Anna, to work things out. Keanu refused. If she's out, I'm out. Word leaked to the crew, and suddenly the whispers became waves again. One of the lighting techs posted a message online. Anna stood up for someone else and lost everything. Keanu stood up for her and gave it all back. I've never seen anything like it. The post went viral, not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. People around the world started asking questions. Actors, writers, directors, even fans. They asked why someone like Anna, who had done nothing wrong, was being treated like she didn't matter. And the studio felt it. A journalist reached out to Anna for a quote. She said, no, not because she didn't have something to say, but because she knew her silence now spoke louder than their emails. Meanwhile, Keanu stayed silent too. Not a single tweet, not a single press conference. No interviews, but every day he returned to that empty set, and every day more people joined him. First, it was the assistant camera operator, then the boom mic tech, then 2 background actors. All of them choosing not to work, but to wait. Not for money, not for fame, but for something deeper. Respect. The studio finally called Anna directly. A different voice this time. Not cold, not firm, just tired. Anna, the woman on the line, said, We may have rushed things. Anna, didn't say anything. We'd like to invite you back, if you're willing. Anna looked at the phone for a moment, then said, quietly, not without a public statement. The line went silent. Not for me, she added. For the people who never got one when they were pushed aside. The voice on the other end didn't know how to respond, but Anna was done staying quiet. Keanu smiled when she told him. Good, he said. It's your story now. The power shifted. Not because someone shouted, but because someone stood. And someone else didn't walk away when it got hard. Her voice broke the silence. The next morning, the studio made a move. They didn't hold a press conference. They didn't film a video. They simply posted a black and white photo of Ana de Armas on their official page, with one sentence beneath. We were wrong. It wasn't much, but to the people watching, it meant something. In less than an hour, the post had over 2 million likes and thousands of comments. Some were angry, some were thankful. Some asked what really happened behind the scenes, but most of them were from everyday people, quiet voices who had once felt pushed aside. Anna didn't reply online. Instead, she walked onto the set for the first time in weeks. No one spoke at first. Not even Keanu. She moved with calm steps, holding her script to her chest, wearing a plain gray t-shirt and faded jeans. No makeup, no spotlight. Just her. And yet she carried the weight of 100 silenced voices. Keanu stood when he saw her. He didn't say a word, just offered a small nod, like he was saying, "You did it. Now, take your place," the director. Now more careful than ever, walked toward her with a hesitant smile. "We're glad to have you back," he said. Anna looked him in the eye. "I'm not back unless things are different." "They will be," he promised. "Not just for me." She added, "For everyone." He nodded, unsure what to say next. Anna walked onto the center of the stage, looked around at the lights, the crew, the cameras. "Before we start," she said softly, "I want to say something." The room froze. Everyone turned toward her. She took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice did not break. "You all saw what happened," she began. "Some of you stayed quiet. Some of you didn't know what to do. That's okay, because I've been there too." People lowered their heads. But silence becomes a wall. And behind that wall are people like me. Like the extra who was mocked. Like the assistant who was ignored. Like the intern who was told to stay invisible. You could hear the sound of someone sniffing in the back. Anna stepped forward. I was removed for doing the right thing. But someone else gave me a chance to return. Not with anger, not with noise, but with kindness and strength. She looked over at Keanu. He didn't shout, he didn't fight. He just walked across a room and handed me a script. That moment, reminded me of who I was. Keanu looked down at the floor, humble as ever. "So now," she continued, "I want us to create a new kind of set. One where no one has to be silent to be safe. Where kindness isn't seen as weakness. And where respect is not something you earn, something you give." For a long moment, no one said a word. Then someone clapped. It was the intern, then a background actor, then the costume designer. And soon, the whole room was clapping. But not like before. This time it was loud, proud, full of warmth. The director stepped back, tears in his eyes. "You're right," he said. "Let's make this the set it should have always been." Anna smiled. A full, fearless smile. They began filming again that afternoon. But something had changed. On day one of the new shoot, Anna wasn't just the lead actress. She was the heart of the set. And Keanu, he stayed close, but never in the spotlight. Lift lights, moved props when needed. Brought coffee to crew members. He didn't act like a star, he acted like a teammate, a quiet leader. The story they were telling on screen began to mirror what had happened off screen. It became more honest, more real. Even the lines in the script started to shift. Writers felt inspired. Producers started listening more. And the whole energy felt. Nudoena and Keanu didn't need to speak much now. They had already spoken the loudest when it mattered most. And now the whole set was listening. The scene that changed everything the day they shot, the most emotional scene of the film. Something strange happened. It was supposed to be a simple set of Panah's character breaking down after losing someone she loved. But the script had only 3 lines. The lighting was soft, the camera slow and close. It was meant to be quiet, heavy, real. But before they started filming, the director asked Anna a question. "Do you want to say something else? Not from the script, just from you?" Anna blinked. It was the first time she'd been asked that. Not told what to do, not directed, just asked as she looked around. The crew was ready. The mic was hot. The camera was focused. She nodded. "Roll sound," someone said. "Action," whispered the director. Anna stood in the middle of the small room on set, wearing a simple dress, hair loose, eyes slightly red. She looked down, then up, and then something happened. She didn't act. She remembered. And for the next 2 minutes, she spoke not as her character, but as herself. "I thought if I kept quiet, they would let me stay. That if I followed the rules, smiled politely, stayed small, They would see me as easy to work with, safe. The room was frozen. Even the camera operator forgot to breathe. But it didn't protect me. It erased me. A tear rolled down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away. I watched others speak up. I watched them be punished. And still, I stayed quiet until the day I couldn't anymore. The director leaned back slowly, his hands resting on the chair's arms like he was holding himself in place, and when they erased me, I thought maybe they were right. Maybe I wasn't worth the trouble. She paused, then looked past the camera, directly into the eyes of Keanu standing just behind the crew, until someone reminded me that kindness is not weakness, and that silence can be broken with a whisper. The silence after her last line felt louder than applause. The director didn't call cut. He didn't need to. Anna stepped back, wiped her eyes, and let out a soft breath. The crew didn't move. Then Keanu walked onto set. He gently wrapped a soft blanket around her shoulders, not saying a word. His touch said everything after a few seconds. The director finally stood. "We're not redoing that," he said. "That's the one." People began clapping again, but it was different. Not just because of the performance. Not just because the scene was powerful, but because everyone knew something real had just been captured the next day. That raw footage was sent to the studio. When they saw it, they didn't make a single edit. No cuts, no music. They just approved it with a single comment, "Let it run." And something even more unexpected happened that week. A well-known actor, who had been silent for years, publicly posted, "I saw what Anna did. I've stayed quiet for too long. Not anymore." Then another one followed, and another actors, crew members, even directors. They started to speak. Not just about Anna's story, but their own. About how they had seen others being pushed down, ignored, erased just for standing up, just for asking to be treated like human beings. Anna had become a mirror, not for herself, but for everyone on set. People treated each other differently now. Lunch breaks were shared without cliques. Wardrobe staff were thanked with real appreciation. Crew members who were once invisible were asked how they were doing. Anna had brought something back to that place. It's just her character, but the soul of the story. And the quiet man who had handed her the script, he still stayed in the background, but everyone knew without that one walk across the room, none of this would have happened. The premiere they never expected film was finished. After months of quiet strength, whispered support, and slow rebuilding, it was done. The final cut included the unscripted scene, the one where Anna had spoken from her soul. The studio didn't touch it. They didn't dare. When the premiere night arrived, it was raining softly. The red carpet sparkled under umbrellas and camera flashes. Celebrities arrived one by one, smiling, posing, dressed in perfect silence. But then Keanu arrived. Not in a limousine, but in a small black car. It's the kind that didn't draw attention. And when he stepped out, he didn't walk toward the press. He turned back and opened the door for someone else, Anna. She stepped out slowly, her dress simple, elegant, calm just like her. The cameras went wild. Questions flew. How did you come back? What happened on set? What did Keanu say to you that day? Anna didn't answer. Instead, she took Keanu's hand, and together they walked past the crowd. Not quickly, not nervously, just steady. When they reached the front of the theater, they paused. Keanu leaned in and whispered something. No one could hear what he said, but Anna smiled. Inside, the audience was full. Actors, press, studio heads. Even a few people from the original crew who had quietly left and now returned to support. The lights dimmed. The film began, and for 2 hours the room was silent. No whispers, no shifting. Just silence. When the emotional scene came, the one Anna had spoken from her heart, many wiped their eyes. Some gasped. Even the studio head looked down, ashamed of the decision that had almost erased that moment. As the credits rolled, the room didn't move until one person stood up. It was the intern. It's the one who had clapped first on the day Anna made her speech. He stood tall, then clapped, and like before, others followed. One by one, the entire theater rose to its feet. A standing ovation, not for special effects, not for explosions, but for truth, for grace, for the strength it takes to stand back up after you've been quietly pushed down. After the screening, Anna and Keanu were asked to speak. Anna stepped onto the small stage and looked out at everyone. "Used to think my voice wasn't loud enough," she said softly. "But I've learned it doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be true." Applause again, not the loud kind, the lasting kind. Keanu stood beside her, still silent, still strong. The microphone was offered to him, but he just shook his head with a warm smile and said, "She already said everything." In the days that followed, reviews poured in. The film wasn't just a hit. It became a movement. Articles called it a quiet revolution. Young actors wrote letters saying they felt seen for the first. Crew members across the industry began sharing stories, some heartbreaking, some hopeful. Anna didn't become the biggest star in the world overnight, but she became something deeper, a symbol of what it means to rise with grace. And Keanu, he never took credit, he never gave interviews, but people whispered his name with respect. Not for being a star, but for being a man who walked past everyone. Just to hand someone back her voice years later, that film would be taught in film schools. Not for its plot, but for its moment of truth, and that single walk, that single gesture, when a quiet man chose kindness over comfort and gave the story back to the one it belonged to.